Hey YouTube, this is Zach with Achilles Financial, and today we're going to be talking about AMD stock and the interesting buy points that I believe it has presented itself. First and foremost, I do want to thank everyone here on the channel who is a subscriber. We just hit the 300 subscriber mark. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of you, and I hope to continue providing the value that has caused you to stick around. So, without further ado, as we look at advanced micro devices, or AMD, this is a stock in the semiconductors and semiconductor equipment infotech sector. They're a large cap growth company and they have been absolutely killing it. You'll recall back in June, we talked about purchasing this stock and we have been rewarded many times over for those moves back in June. So since the stock has already had a huge increase this calendar year, being up right at 140%, is now the time to buy, and I think so. I am looking to add to my position here, and you can see just on the 5-day average, anytime I see the stock under $80, I personally like it. I'd like to build a position here. The reason for this drop, especially one that we saw today, is actually because they announced that they are going to have the XLNX or XLNX transaction is going to occur, where they are going to be acquiring in an all-stock deal. The reason that's caused this to go down is A, there's liquidity concerns, as well as B, that everyone doesn't necessarily think it's going to immediately add profit on the bottom line, while it will add revenue. I want to highlight that when we originally heard about this news, that's where we saw some of these steep drops nearly a month ago. So on the overall advantage of things, it's not really anything crazy, but when we saw the big uptick here, it immediately dropped before kind of leveling out as it led into the potential for earnings. So right now, I think we're in an interesting buy point, because you can see the last time we had that drop, it still leveled back out and kept climbing. This is information that I think is going to be very important, because the company announced earnings today and they absolutely killed it. And I think that the overall XLNX news kind of overshadowed that. But you can see here that this is a record-breaking earnings of 41 cents a share, and that was beating estimates. And right now we're looking at this purely on the EPS side. We're going to look at some of the valuation on the fundamental side here shortly. But it's very important to see that we are beating over and over and over. And the beat this quarter is expected to be, it was higher than all 4 quarters last year and the year prior in terms of EPS performance. And look at these valuations going forward. Again, we're talking years out, so who knows what that's actually going to look like. But this is a company who has a lot of growth potential. When we look at the fundamentals of the company in terms of how they're actually performing, I want to look at some of the income, and we now have the Q2 numbers, or rather the Q3 numbers are going to be coming up here shortly. But what I really want to see is that increase that we got to witness on the charts today, because we're not going to see that here updated yet. But this is a company that beat on the top and bottom line many times over. We had record-breaking revenue this quarter, which is just insane. Again, this is a company that has everything going for it right now. However, we don't necessarily have all of our buy points lined up, and this is why I want to add right now. You can see right now that kind of mixed opinions in terms of what people are saying here. I personally am long in the stock. I like it. I think there's a lot to offer, but I do recognize that it is overvalued. If you look at some of these other companies here, we've got Qualcomm, Broadcom, Micron, as well as Analog Devices. The one company in here that's the other high flyer is going to be NVIDIA, and I don't see them as a peer in this category, even though they're kind of who they've been going head to head with in terms of stock performance. The big thing that I want to highlight is we see total revenue of 7.6, 23.2, 20 billion, 21, and 5.5. So in terms of how the companies are actually behaving in terms of total revenue, then you're seeing that they're actually one of the smaller companies, despite the fact that they have one of the largest market caps out of the companies up here, especially larger than the two over here. The big reason why they've demanded such a high total valuation is due to the revenue growth metric that you see here. As you can see, they're absolutely blowing it out of the water, and this is not taking into account what we saw today with earnings. So there's just so much value here. What I'd like to see is this price to earnings actually catch up a little bit. And I think as that continues to happen, you're going to see that valuation continue to perform very well. Even today with the lower price and higher earnings, this is a metric that will drop, albeit it's still going to be high. It's still going to be around 140. So despite the fact that there is a unfavorable merger today with XLNX, I still think that this is a valuable company and one that's worthwhile investing in. And the other thing that I like about it is, despite the fact we're on a down day here, there is advantages to being able to purchase the stock and hold it long term. The other advantage is because it is a pretty volatile stock and it can move, as evidenced by the down 4% day. One of the things that we can look to potentially do is sell a cash secured put. So if you say, Zach, I like the company, but I don't necessarily like that price, then what you could do is actually look on the put side, and instead of this November 20th, you can take advantage of, by the end of the year, say, Zach, I'm interested in the stock, but maybe I like it at the 72.5 put. Well, what you're able to do is someone will actually pay you the difference between these two. Looks like the last option was $320. Someone will pay you $320 to just sit on your $7,250 that you would need to issue this put. So that's a pretty good return to just sit there if it's a stock that you don't necessarily say, hey, I want this at this point in time. Just something to consider. If you like the company but don't like the current price, you can still profit off the company. I say all this just to recognize that, hey, you can go and do your own research. I am going to continue building a position in AMD as well as one of their suppliers, TSM, which is my personal favorite. If you have any questions or stock picks, please drop those in the comments below. And if you've made it this far, please leave a like and subscribe. Thanks, everyone. I'll talk to you later.